This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're here today with Wayne Jones, the member of the Executive Board of MAN Energy Solutions, to discuss the Maritime's decarbonization path. Wayne, we're here at the SMM in Hamburg, Germany. Yesterday, MAN introduced the MAN 4960DF family. Can you just give us a brief of that, the family, and why the introduction is significant at this time for MAN?
Super. Yeah, thanks, Greg. So first of all, it's always exciting to introduce a new engine. So the 4960, it's really like an engine platform. So we're replacing an older engine, and as you know, in the engine business, it takes some time to develop this kind of engine range. So what we're trying to do is deal with a kind of uncertain future. So first of all, the engine is, reduction in specific fuel oil consumption. It's more efficient. It's higher power per cylinder. But on top of this, we want to make sure that it's future-proof. In other words, that it's ready for whatever fuels will come into the industry. And unlike the merchant marine and the big two-stroke engines, where you basically have one route to market, this is a very diverse market where you're going from cruise to dredger to passenger ferry to whatever. So it's all about flexibility, and it's all about being able to support customer preferences in terms of alternative fuels.
Okay, can you take a little bit deeper dive on the actual process by which the engine was designed and,
Sure.
and brought to market? Specifically, I'm just looking at, what did you see as the primary drivers, and specifically, how long did it take?
Yep.
And what are your key target markets coming out of the box?
Yeah, sure. So we started the process around early 2018, and typically what we do is we do like a one-cylinder test to sort of prove the fundamentals of the design, and then we move that out to a full engine build, which we've done. That got then tested from sort of 21 onwards in Augsburg, and what we're able to do then is to start to prove the mechanical operation of the engine, also prove the key fundamentals we want to achieve. So of course, cost competitive, so we wanted to reduce the fuel oil consumption, which we can do to around 4%. And then of course what we also wanted to do was increase the power per cylinder. So actually, main markets we're interested in is of course the cruise industry. Anywhere you need a high-powered engine with a flexible operating range. So that's basically the quick story of the 4960.
Can you discuss in the macro, what are the challenges? What are some of the unique challenges that trying to meet all these new parameters? What does that mean for a company like MAN?
I mean, interestingly, we really looked at our strategical approach sort of back end of 2015, early 16, and we were the biggest diesel engine manufacturer in the world, yeah? And we're still the biggest engine manufacturer in the world, but we had to really sort of change our portfolio, our strategy going forward. So we changed our company name. We were called MAN Diesel and Turbo. We changed our name because we want to give a message both internally and externally that we believe we've got an obligation to decarbonize the shipping industry. So this was a big step for us. And then of course in our portfolio, we have a big market share in our two-stroke business, again merchant marine, and we can really then, we believe we can drive that transition in a smart way. So methanol seems to be, as of today, quite a standard route, and we're seeing big customers like AP Møller Maersk, where the infrastructure is starting to work in that kind of approach. But it's such a diverse industry that unfortunately methanol might not work in every area of the business. So of course dual fuel is a great opportunity because you can make sure you can keep your consistency of operation by working on heavy fuel, but of course if LNG is readily available, then of course you can meet the requirements to reduce greenhouse gases. So it is certainly not one case fixes all. We need to look at varying opportunities, and then also we need to push that supply and demand. And if you keep producing methanol engines, for example, we have more than 70 operational now in the last 3 years, then of course the infrastructure will be increasing and improving year on year. And again, if you keep that dual fuel option, you can make sure operations will continue. So on the two-stroke market, merchant marine, I think there's a bit of clarity. So maybe methanol, future could be ammonia. So we will be testing an ammonia engine in our research area in Copenhagen. Hopefully that will be available 2024. And then on the four-stroke market, because of the diversity, maybe the routes don't lend themselves to being purely methanol. So I think, politicians have to accept, society has to accept that there's got to be a transition. So although not the perfect solution, LNG is still a better solution. So it's about progress rather than perfection. So we still get reduction in CO2s, maybe LNG is more readily available. So it's about those steps to get to or challenge the agreements that was made in Paris. And as we presented recently, we have a big fear that actually, because of the increase we've seen in recent years in terms of CO2 emissions, that it's going to be extremely difficult to meet that requirement of the 2050. Yeah.
Have you seen a fundamental change at all in the way in which you work with ship owners to kind of guide them through this as you guide yourself through it?
We've never seen so much interaction with our customers we've seen in the last 3 years. Before it was heavy fuel oil engine, there's a couple of choices in the market, it goes through what it goes through. I think now the process before about what alternative fuels are available, what their routes are coming into play, what kind of ship it is, all those things now are creating huge dialogue in a very positive way. And I think it's clear, to meet these targets we have to partner much more than we maybe did in the past. So it needs, the shipyards involved, the prime mover involved, the end user involved, ship management companies. So the dialogue is off scale compared to what it was before, which is really good, because then that dialogue improves that communication and improves the end result about having the most efficient ship or the greenest ship or whatever that may be. So huge dialogue and huge connections. Yeah.
What do you propose is needed to be done to ensure that the maritime industry is going to hit the targets that they're mandated to hit?
All right. So point A is absolutely valid. We're moving far too slow. Yeah. So a lot of talk from politicians, a lot of talk from various governing bodies, a lot of talk from many, many different areas, but we need to really take real action now. And the key thing is we're already behind the curve. Yeah. So we need to accelerate everything, and there's some key buttons we need to press to do that. First of all, an awareness. The technology is available. There's nobody's waiting for technology. It's well proven. We've run methanol engines for more than 3 years now. Really trouble-free operations. So that's not the issue. We can scale the technology. Also not the issue. We can retrofit existing ships. Also not the issue. Okay, bigger challenges because you've not got a blank sheet of paper. You've got to fit fuel tanks in, you've got to understand it, but we've done it already with Hapag-Lloyd, with others. So all that technology availability is there, we just need to get the awareness out. Second point, totally valid, we need regulation. I mean, if you need to push issues without regulation, then this thing will just keep moving. Maybe it'll accelerate a little bit, but we have to get the curve steeper. So regulation, we've been shouting this for years now, we have to change the policies, and the regulators have to stand up and say, okay, this is the new way of working, so that will do it. And then of course other things like supply chains, of course that will have to follow, but the regulation will drive a behaviour, and I think that's what we've been canvassing an awful lot in governments in Germany, in Denmark, in international organisations, etc., to get that regulation in place. We've got great companies, first movers, and we feel now more an obligation to decarbonise the shipping industry rather than to support. We feel obliged to do it. You've got first movers who are really putting the money where the mouth is and saying, okay, there's uncertainty, but we'll go with this. Yeah. So now you can't keep having 2 or 3 first movers because it won't change dramatically. And we have an international organisation that actually, once we can agree something, it's global, whereas other industries will be a regional approach, which doesn't work in greenhouse gases yet. So challenging to do, but something we need to move forward on.
So I mean, we've been talking about this decarbonization for so long.
Yeah.
Now we have these geopolitical situations, we have energy security issues. Do you see this fundamentally impacting the push towards decarbonization? Do you see that as another potential hurdle?
I mean, it is a hurdle, but I don't think it's an unsurmountable hurdle. There's always going to be things that are going to change in the world, and you're absolutely right. At the moment, the world's not in a stable way, and of course, but I think the alternative is just non-viable. We can't go back and say, okay, let's get coal-fired power stations up and running again. We can't turn the clock back, because actually the clock is ticking negatively for us anyway. So we've got to keep on the path. and just accept that there will be hurdles that we've got to get over as we go through that. And you know, some of the situations are unclear, but I think also we live in an environment that's totally unclear in the next 2 or 3 years which way industry's going to go. But one thing will remain, you know, the shipping industry is still the best form of transporting goods around the world and will be for decades to come. So it's not a short-term industry, it's something that we have to really address short-term, medium-term, but then of course long-term as well.
You know, obviously a lot of interesting topics going on, and supply chain management is absolutely one of them. Can you give a little insight on how this has impacted MAN Energy's ES's operations, and just kind of discuss how you see the availability of your products, the ability to build and deliver them as you'd like to?
Yeah. So Greg, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and like everybody, we suffered in the you know, with the supply chain as we've gone forward. Actually, we didn't suffer as much as we thought we were going to suffer. So we had a challenge, no doubt, and there's certain things like microchips which have caused us issues, and electrical components, etc. But you know, we've got quite a diverse supply chain. Some of that is in Europe as well, which actually has been a benefit for us. Of course, some is in Asia, but I would say we are pretty much over the worst of it, and we're seeing real light at the end of the tunnel that you know, makes us commit to our delivery dates, commit to our schedules, etc. What we also did from a service perspective, we stocked up when we knew there was a problem, because we knew we had clients and customers that we had to support. So we actually increased our working capital. My colleague as the CFO wasn't over the moon about this, but this helped us make sure that we could support our customer, which is the key thing for us as well. Going forward, and you know, we have a couple of different models. We produce engines ourselves, the 4-stroke engines, so we certainly have capacities to do that, so that's the capacity is not full. And then of course with the 2-stroke engines, we do this through a license model, and talking to our key partners in the licensee area, there is capacity as well in that market. So actually we are also quite positive that we can meet customer demands in the next 1, 2, 3 years.
You know, we talk a lot about the macro, but I also understand you have some great experience with the actual practical hands-on delivery and operation of vessels, taking these new alternative fuels to new efficiency levels. So the L Blue and its use of synthetic natural gas. Can you give a little insight on how that's run?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to be there at the launch event, and really was a great experience. So a lot of like-minded companies, and again, going back to this partnership, there was 4 or 5 companies involved to make this happen. It was a modification of an existing vessel, so took some engineering because we had to fit the tank in, and piping and modifications to the engine, but really great work all around, and you know, a clear demonstration that you can make these changes. And you know, commercially, of course, this made the container vessel smaller in terms of containers, but in terms of greenhouse gases, the commitment from the operator was, I want to make my vessel green, you and MAN can support us, let's do it. And it was really a great scenario, and of course great teamwork in actually engineering that change, not just the design of it, but actually the implementation, you know. So our guys working very closely with the ship guys to make this work, because at the end of the day, it's the hardware that, you know, is the key to it at the end. So really was a great project for all of us.